This is a virtual tour of the new bird demonstration garden located at the Audubon Pennington Nature Park in Port Charlotte, Florida, on Alton Road, 1153 Alton Road. And this is a natural garden that we planted with native plants. We had some existing plants here already, and we enhanced what was here. We cleaned out all the invasives and created this demonstration bird garden. The purpose of it is to show the public how they could landscape their property using native plants to attract wildlife. And the purpose of this came about because of an article that was in the scientific journal Science last year in 2019, where a group of researchers found that since 1970, the bird population in North America has declined by 3 billion birds. There's several reasons, but the primary reason is loss of habitat. So what we can all do is try to create microhabitats for the birds on our properties. It could be a single-family home property, it could be an apartment building, it could be a commercial property, a government building, a church, a school, any place where native plants could be installed. And what we're trying to do here is provide shelter for birds, food for birds, and other wildlife, and a water source, a water element as well. So this is the entrance to the garden, and there's some signage on the post here and an info box. The garden is located between the main trail, and it's across the main trail from the trailhead to the nature trail. And on the west side, there is a canal. So when you first walk into this demo garden, you will see some native grasses. We planted Fakahatchee grass here, and this is a very full, bushy, tall grass. We put in 4 of these, and over here you can see a tree that's called a marlberry tree, and it's a small tree now. It's about 2.5 feet tall, but it could get up to 10 feet tall. And there's some wiregrass over here. Well, it's technically muley grass, but it's wiry looking. And this will put out a flower spike in the late fall that's pink and kind of feathery looking. So with the info box here, we have several brochures that are related to attracting wildlife, and we have also a brochure that's for the purpose of creating a bird and butterfly sanctuary certification program. That's through Peace River Audubon Society. And there's an application here where you can fill out and write down what kind of native plants you have if you want to get your yard certified. You just follow the instructions, and we'll send somebody out to inspect your property, do a site visit, and then once you're certified, you will receive a yard sign like this, which says, "This property provides food, nectar, shelter, and a water source for birds, butterflies, bees, insects, and other wildlife." And I just wanted to mention too, this Audubon Plants for Birds sign. It's very important to use this resource here. This website's audubon.org, Plants for Birds. And when you go to this website, you will type in your zip code, and you'll get a list of 20 native plants that are best suited for your zip code. And there's pictures, there's descriptions about each plant, what kind of birds it would attract. And then if you want to go beyond the 20 plants, you can click on show full results and you'll get over 100 plants listed. And there'll also be a tab to locate a local native plant nursery in your area. And I also wanted to mention too that this whole project, the demo garden as well as the certification program, was made available by a generous grant from FPL, and with the help of Audubon, Florida, working with FPL. That grant funding made it possible to buy the plants, to print the brochures, to print the yard signs, and we're really appreciative of that funding. So the first kind of showy plant you'll come to here at this demo garden is the beautyberry, and it's a real bird pleaser. They love these birds, and they wait till they're ripe. So here's some in various, like some green ones up here that are not ripe. The purple ones are getting riper, and you can see it better over here too, actually. The various stages from really green to a little mixed purple and green to a light purple to a darker purple. And they will tend to wait until they're perfectly ripe. They won't eat them all at once. They'll just pick a few and keep coming back every day. And I've seen cardinals on this bush, and I have seen mockingbirds as well. Here's more Fakahatchee grass. This is a very nice ornamental grass. I mean, this would work well in pretty much anybody's yard. And it produces some seed heads that the birds will eat. And then we have a bird bath, one of our bird baths. And we have a wild coffee bush over here that's also producing berries right now. They're not ripe yet. They're mostly reddish, yellowish. When they're ripe, they'll be a dark color, dark purple. Here's another beautyberry that's next to it and kind of like commingled with it. We have a Simpson stopper. This is a large coral bean. It'll produce red flowers. And a lot of these plants, in fact, most of these plants will attract butterflies as well. When they flower, the butterflies will come. And when they produce the fruit, the birds will come. This is a saltbush. It's about 7 or 8 feet tall. And if it's producing yellow flowers, it's a male. And if it's a white flowered saltbush, it'll be a female plant. And you need both to produce the berries. This is a sable palm. It's also called a cabbage palm. We have this one here close to the canal, and then we have another big one over on this side. And there's probably 10 or more in various stages of growth throughout this demo garden. There's small ones, there's tall ones, and they do produce seeds that birds like. I've seen flocks of robins come here on their migration back north at the end of winter, the beginning of spring, and they will just hop from palm tree to palm tree, and there'll be like 40 or 50 birds in a flock, and they're loud and they're flapping their wings, and it's really fascinating to watch these robins when they're gorging and putting on weight before they go north. This is a sumac, a winged sumac, and there's a few of these here. There's a smaller one down here. There's one here. Another beautyberry over there. That's a sumac. That's a sumac. And there's another beautyberry. In this area here, it's just a thicket of wax myrtle that starts down at the canal edge and comes all the way up the canal bank. And this one particular tree, it's the tallest one we have here, tallest wax myrtle. And it's actually producing berries now. You can see the berries are very immature. When they're mature and ready to eat, they'll be coated in a waxy layer. But this tree, there must be hundreds of berries on this tree. They're just covered. And the birds will eat these. They like these. There's another beautyberry here. And another bird bath. This is a necklace pod. For a point of reference, it's the date is September 8th, 2020. And I'm just mentioning that in case I do some follow-up videos that show the progress of these plants. This is dune sunflower. It sprawls out, spreads out, and it's a real hardy plant. And it's a good ground cover just because of the way it grows. Here's another beautyberry, good sized one, full of berries. There's a little wax myrtle here. And we have a dwarf Walter's viburnum here. And there's a sea grape down closer to the water. There's another big cabbage palm that's just starting to develop a trunk. And there's another one over here. And from this vantage point, you're on a bluff kind of about 10 feet above the canal. And it's just amazing. I don't know how many times I've come here and I'll see amazing water birds, you know, like blue heron and egrets and limpkins and little blue heron, little green heron. And they just really come here to hunt for their food, which is usually shellfish or small fish. We have a mature slash pine growing here on the canal bank, and behind it is a mature live oak. Now the live oak is very beneficial for birds because it can host up to 500 species of caterpillars. And behind the live oak there's a whole bunch of red maples that are 30 or 40 feet tall, and they can also host maybe about 250 species of caterpillars. And that's very important for the birds when they have hatchlings, because the primary food is caterpillars. It's a great source of protein. It's soft, and the little chicks can eat that caterpillar. So it's a really good thing to have. If you have the space, you know, a live oak takes up a lot of space, but oak trees are really great to have on your property. And down here we have a small ground cover called quailberry, and it has little tiny leaves, and it kind of spreads out, and it will produce berries. This is a little young beautyberry. We put in these steps here because the slope was so steep, and with these pine needles it gets kind of slippery, and we just used logs that we found in the park from branches that broke off during storms, and we staked them out with wooden stakes that we when we cut down the Brazilian pepper, which is invasive. They're long and straight. They make a nice walking stick or wooden stakes. So we repurpose the invasive plant into a wood stake to hold the logs in place. And they act as erosion logs too, because without these logs, every time it rains, the sand and soil would just keep getting washed into the canal. And the soil here is not great. It's mostly sand, and it's called miaka soil. And I would recommend, you know, if anybody living in this area, when you dig your hole to put your plant in, even though native plants are very hardy, they've adapted to this environment. This environment could be pretty harsh. There's a wet season, a dry season, a brutally hot summer, intense sun in the summertime. And these plants for thousands of years have adapted. But when you have a new plant and you put it in a new place, you want to kind of help it along, get it established. So I like to dig a hole bigger, then a little wider than normal, and then fill it in with compost or topsoil or cow manure, things like that are going to help it grow some roots and get established. Now this is a brush pile, and every good bird garden should have a brush pile. It's just something, you make when you prune branches or pick up sticks after a rainstorm, or any debris from your yard. You could, instead of putting it out on the swale for the trash pickup, you could have a little area maybe in your backyard along a fence or in the corner of your property, and just make a pile of sticks and branches and things like that. And what it'll do is attract insects. It will attract lizards, little frogs, things that birds will eat. And there'll also be voids inside the brush pile, little cavities where birds, especially small birds, can seek shelter. If there's a predator or something, they can fly in there and hide in there. And all of this, everything on this brush pile came from this demo garden, because it was kind of a briar patch when we first started to look at this site, and it really needed a lot of work clearing out some of these vines and things that were in here. Some of these vines can actually kill the native plants by compressing them, choking them. They'll pull them down and flatten them, and then they die because they're not getting sunlight, they're not getting the rain they need. And so it was also Brazilian pepper trees in here, and carrot wood trees, and just a lot of stuff that was in this location. This is a pitch apple, and it's called Closea, and it'll produce a fruit, like an apple type fruit, that birds will eat. This is a cocoa plum. This will also produce fruit for birds. And over here we have a pearlberry, and this will produce white berries that are translucent. So that's where it gets its name from. It looks pearl-like. And it's an endangered native. It's typically only found in Florida and the Keys and South Florida. And it's very rare. We have a couple of those here. This is a fiddlewood. This will grow up into a pretty good sized tree. It could get 20 feet tall maybe, or so. It will produce little fragrant flowers that later will become berries for the birds. And we have a rouge plant here, and this is wild grape. And it's kind of using the rouge plant as a climbing plant, but to latch onto. But it's producing these little berries here. And here's some. And they're green now, but they'll turn red eventually. This is a firebush. This is a very versatile plant. If you're going to plant natives in your yard, you might want to, for various reasons, you might want to start slowly and buy 1 or 2 or 3, and then kind of let it grow or expand over time. And this is one of my favorites because it produces these flowers that are tubular, and the hummingbirds like these because there's nectar in there. The butterflies like the flowers for the same reason. And then it will produce berries. These are young berries here. They'll get much larger and turn very dark, and the birds will eat them. They like these berries. We have 4 cabbage palms here in a cluster. Here's another Closea. This one's much bigger. I don't know, they were both about the same size when we planted them, but this one is probably 3 times as big as it was when we put it in the ground, so it's happy in this spot, definitely. The plant here is called spotted bee balm, and it has these really pretty little flowers. They're kind of pinkish colored white, almost a lavender color, I guess. And it sprawls out, almost like a vine. It really spreads out. It's like, I don't know where it started, but here, I guess it started right there. But it's expanded all the way over to here, and it's spreading out over there. And it just kind of crawls around. It's a ground cover. At least here it is. You know, it might be more erect, I guess, if you had a trellis or something to support it. There's another pearlberry over there. This is a privet, a Florida privet. And this is another native grass that we planted kind of unsuccessfully. It's a dense blazing star, and it should be a lot bushier and more grass-like than what these are. The culprit is the rabbits. The rabbits love this. This is like gourmet salad for them, and they'll come here and just nibble and nibble and nibble. But fortunately, they have left the flower stalk alone. Now this will bloom probably in a few weeks, and so I'm happy about that. You know, at least we'll have some color and something kind of showy. This is another beautyberry. And so that's about it. We're going to continue to add plants as we acquire them and we find the right space. You know, the old saying, right plant, right space. It's a good thing to remember. You know, some plants like shade, some plants like full sun. But, and if you go to that Audubon website, all that information is there as far as the plant characteristics, you know, what to expect, what their needs are. So once again, I would like to thank FPL for their grant funding for this project. Couldn't have been made possible without that. And also the assistance from the Florida Audubon at the state level for them working with FPL to facilitate this process. And I'll do updates from time to time as we acquire new plants or existing plants are blooming or growing or something, you know, that's noteworthy. So thanks for watching, and if you get a chance, please come by and visit us. Oh, one more thing, if you do want to get your yard certified, there are pamphlets here at the park, like I showed before, but if you're maybe living too far away or elsewhere, you can go to peaceriver.audubon.org. That's our website for this Peace River Audubon Society chapter here in Charlotte County. So go to peaceriver.audubon.org, click on the birding tab, and then click on the yard certification tab, and there's a PDF there. It's the same pamphlet that I have here at the park, but it's a PDF format. You could print it or download it and then fill it out and submit it if you want your property certified. Okay, thanks for watching.